I'm Daniel Fisher, and today we are looking at the Behringer PRO-1. This is a paraphonic, all analog, 2-oscillator synthesizer with a 24 dB filter, 4-pole with resonance that goes fully resonant. And I gotta tell you, I'm biased to this synth because back in 1980, I studied the System 55 by Moog at Northern Illinois University. But the next year, 1981, I joined the Army, and my first big paycheck, I bought my first personal synthesizer. It was the Prophet PRO-1. It was the only one I could afford at the time, but it turned out to be a brilliant first synth to own because there's so much to do, so much to learn. And it's a particularly fat synth, if you can already hear that. If you're not hearing that, get better headphones or bigger speakers because this is massive. And there's lots of tricks on it, especially over in the modulation section. A lot of power there where you can assign filter envelope or oscillator B, LFO to various things and then use the wheel to control it or go directly to things. You could do sync from oscillator B to oscillator A. You've got a mixer that also brings in noise. You can also bring in an external sound, run it through the filter as well. It's got two sequencers, both 64 notes. You can switch between them in real time like I did in the opening. It's got an arpeggiator that does up and down. It's got a poly mode that lets you do 2-note paraphonic like you heard in the intro. You can re-trigger or you can just have low note priority. You can also do repeats based on the LFO or an external clock. Just very, very cool. And then on top of everything else, of course, now it has MIDI. It also has all of these control voltage ins and outs. So you can bring control voltage ins for mod wheel, your oscillator, your gate, the LFO speed. But then it also has outs like the LFO out, the keyboard out, the gate out, your external in that we already talked about. You've got a mixer out that lets you hear the oscillators pre-filter. You've got filter cutoff you can bring in, resonance, and then you've got filter envelope going out so you can use that for something, as well as envelope out, you can use that for something else. You got headphones that let you hear both left and right in your ears, although it is monaural. And then you've also got an audio out. There's a 1/4-inch audio out on the back, and your MIDI's in front. Why? Because with just 8 screws, you can take this whole thing out and mount it right into a Eurorack. It comes with the Eurorack power cable as well as a couple of patch cables. And so just a brilliant, brilliant synth. Are there presets? No, there are no presets. But I'm telling you, if you were to pick one synth to learn without presets, man, this would be one of my first picks because it just shows you everything right out front. It's very easy to learn, and you should be able to make any sound that you can make on this pretty quickly just by turning the knobs. There's a ton of sweet spots. So let's start playing with this thing. We'll start with the oscillators. I have oscillator up, oscillator B down. I have the noise down. I'm on the lowest octave, and I only have saw selected. And like I said, I have multiple shapes, and the first oscillator has 2 shapes, and you can put both of them on at the same time for different sounds. So here's the sawtooth. I'll do all the octaves. And then square. And now some pulse width. And then, of course, that pulse width can be modulated in the modulation section as well. It makes for a very fat, delicious sound. And now I'll switch to the B oscillator, which is similar, but it has some very cool differences. One is that they've added a triangle wave. And again, you can add the other oscillators as well. So here's saw and triangle. Adding the square, and now playing with the pulse width. Remember, this is one oscillator. Now, this oscillator can also be detached from the keyboard, which which is very useful, especially considering that oscillator B can be used to modulate other parameters. So you can use it as an LFO, but they can then go into audio speeds as high as oscillator B can go. So just very, very awesome FM sounds, and modulating the filter and modulating the pulse width, all of that is great. And then, like I said, you can use the mod wheel or not. You can send any of them direct or via the mod wheel. All right, so now I'm going to do one more, and that's low frequency on oscillator B. By the way, this is the Source Audio Nemesis delay, and I have it in ping pong mode just to do this trick. And then, as I mentioned, you also have noise, so I'll turn everything down but the noise. And that knob also brings in external, which means you can bring external audio in, run it through the filter as well. And now I'll show you one of the cool things you can do with the modulation section. I have oscillator B going at the same pitch as oscillator A, just slightly different. You're hearing the phasing. Okay, but now I have mod wheel controlling the amount of oscillator B going to wheel, and the wheel is going to oscillator A frequency. And so now I can do this beating of B against A. The attack, decay, sustain, release for the filter, for the amplifier. Very, very snappy, very powerful. Again, with the amplifier, we'll use the sequence. We'll use the arpeggiator. Again, just a beautiful synth, not just for beginners, for anybody that needs that big, fat 80s, 90s sound for their bass and for their leads, and then want all this extra control with your voltages, the ability to drop it into Eurorack or use it in this container here. It makes for a beautiful desktop unit. The ability to do headphones out while you're also doing 1/4 inch out, as well as the mixer pre-filter out, means this can be used in so many extra ways. Just one of my biggest recommendations for this one. I really, really love this synth. And of course, it goes back to my 1981 purchase of it. And does it sound exactly like the Prophet one? I don't know. I don't have one here, but I'll tell you, from the moment I turned this on, I've had a smile on my face because it just reminds me so much of the sound that I had. So by that test, I say it's the same thing, and it's really, really fun. If you have any further questions about the Behringer PRO-1 or the Arturia KeyStep Pro that I'm using here, or the Nemesis delay by Source Audio, please contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. My name is Daniel Fisher. Thank you very much for watching.